views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chari Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll receive some safety recommendations for children entering the new school year with blended learning when we speak to St. Barnabas Hospital Director of Pediatric Infectious Diseases, Dr. Carine Hedari. After that, we'll find out more about the New York State of Mind organization along with their Back to School 2020 school supply distribution for children throughout the community. Then we'll speak to author Francesca Andre about her new book, I Am a Phenomenal Black Boy, celebrating Black boy brilliance. And later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on Bronx native and Puerto Rican American mezzo-soprano Kayla Faccilongo, who will perform for us later in the show. So let's sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way. Now we are officially open. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, always inviting you to get social with us online. That is, tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Insta Stories, FB, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So due to this pandemic we continue to endure, many parents are left with the decision on whether or not they will be sending their children to school this year. And although everyone's circumstances may be different, many parents have questions on how to safely prepare their children for the new school year. And joining us to discuss more on this topic, we welcome St. Barnabas Hospital Director of Pediatric Infectious Diseases, Dr. Carine Hedari. Hello and welcome, Doctor.
Hi, good morning, Rhina. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, are you in your busy season?
We are in a very busy season. We're happy to see all these kids before school starts. So yes, very happy.
Which brings us to, obviously, this is the time of the year where everyone updates their annual checkup. So let's talk a little bit about what may be different in this annual checkup this year.
Well, I think it shouldn't be all that different. I think it should be done on time. I think it's very important to bring your child to the pediatrician this year more than any year, really, to make sure, their vaccines are up to date, to make sure they're healthy, their asthma is under control, and things like that. So this is how it's going to be different, but otherwise it should really be on time. So don't delay your child's visit to the pediatrician this year.
How important is it for people to get their annual checkup prior to going to school?
It is very important. So it's very important to make sure that your child is healthy, his asthma, so things like asthma and their allergies are under control, and make sure, their heart and lungs are working the way they should be. So it's very important this year, especially that, with the coronavirus going around, it's very important to have your vaccines up to date. So things like the flu is very important this year. It's going to be very confusing with, some of the winter viruses circulating around. So getting your child vaccinated for flu is going to be very important this year.
I see. So flu vaccination is definitely a big recommendation. And because obviously we're still dealing with this pandemic, is COVID-19 a required test prior to going back to school?
No, it's not. It's not. So universal screening is not a recommendation at the moment. So I think just checking in with your child prior to going to school, making sure they're asymptomatic, they're not having fever, cough, runny nose and congestion or any sign of infection. So checking in with your child before sending them to school is going to be the most important step, rather than testing your child. Testing should really be reserved for kids that are symptomatic. So kids that develop symptoms of coronavirus or were exposed somehow. So if the school reported a case or they were exposed at home, then testing is definitely important and contact tracing is important.
Right. So I realize that there's still a lot of unknown factors when it comes to this virus. However, there seems to be this myth that it doesn't really impact children and or young people as severely unless they have an underlying condition or a compromised immune system. And so, but I've also read that there's this new disease that is associated or like a mutated version of COVID that is affecting children. Can you share a little bit more on that?
Absolutely, very happy to. So yes, COVID, we know for sure can infect children almost as much as adults. So they're as prone as adults to the disease itself. However, we've been lucky with this virus because in children, it tends to be a little milder. So 20 times less hospitalizations compared to adults, which is very good. And much less death rates, obviously. So like close to 0.5% of children die from the coronavirus, which is very good news for children. However, as you said, a third of the hospitalizations are pretty severe and lead to this multi-system organ injury that can be fatal in some cases. And that's what's been in the news. It's called MIS-C, and it's been in the news. It can cause, severe disease and sometimes can lead to death, unfortunately. But with all that, always keep in mind that the mortality is still quite low compared to the adult population, which is very good news for us pediatricians.
And so that being said, when we talk about COVID-19, there's COVID-19 testing and then there's antibody testing. So,
yes.
Right. So COVID is generally free, whereas the antibodies I don't believe is. I mean, you please help me out here. And what would be the premise in which one should get the antibody test versus the COVID-19 test, right? Because the COVID-19 is if you have symptoms or you have anything that seems like flu-like symptoms, and then the antibody would be if you think you've had it, right? So just explain that to me and whether that's even necessary as well.
Right. So I think COVID-19 testing is very important, and this is again, so it's gonna be indicated if you were exposed somehow to the virus or you developed symptoms, as you said, and that tests for the virus itself, for the DNA of the virus itself. Now the antibody testing is just seeing if your immune system has encountered the virus at one point, and it's actually much less helpful. It's helpful in some circumstances where we don't know, if a child is hospitalized and we don't know if his symptoms are related to the virus, and we sort of want to prove that he had coronavirus at one point. But otherwise, for the general population, I think this test is overused and vastly, for the majority of cases, useless. So the PCR, which is the COVID testing that you were mentioning, that is available in a lot of centers in New York City, and probably at your pediatrician's office, can be done, is free, and it's very rapid. The results are very quick to come back.
So before we offer, right, I was going to ask you about the turnover with the results. And so with that, you're saying very quick, but how much time more or less? And how close to the beginning of school time should someone get tested? Should they feel the need to be tested prior to starting school?
Right. So again, this test is not perfect. So the test is a rapid PCR. So some of them are very rapid, meaning you get the result in 30 minutes. So some companies have manufactured this test and make it available within 30 minutes. So some centers have these tests, but a lot of centers do a lab that goes to a central lab processing, and that may take 24 hours. And in some centers, there's a backlog, so it can take up to several days. Now that is a test that is only meaningful on the day off. So like today, do I have the virus? Tomorrow is a new day. So, you need another test to prove that you don't have the virus. So again, there is no recommendation for universal testing, meaning that we don't have the means and we're not recommending to test our children every day.
Right.
We're recommending to check in with your child every day before going to school. Make sure that they do not have symptoms. If they do, take them to a center, take the test, and stay at home. Other possibility is if you've been exposed to the virus somehow. So if you have a known exposure either at school or at work or at home, then you should also go for testing.
All right. So lastly, before we go, is there anything anyone can do to prevent anything from happening? I mean, aside from what we've all been conditioned to pay attention to, which is constantly sanitizing our hands and keeping our areas sanitized and wearing our face masks, are there any other recommendations that you can offer?
Yeah, so for kids specifically going to school, I think, emphasizing on hand hygiene. So washing your hands, especially before meals or before drinking anything. Packing your meal for before school. So packing your meal, so not sharing meals with everybody, or not, rather than going to the cafeteria and sharing meals or drinks. Getting your vaccines on time, especially the flu vaccine this year, just to make sure that you're healthy. Getting your asthma under control, so checking with your pediatrician. Those are very important things. And making sure that you're comfortable with the school strategy in terms of containing the virus and how much they're able to practice social distancing and implement those measures to curb the virus. So I think those are things that you need to check before sending your child to school. But otherwise, make sure they wear their masks, especially if they're above 2. And pack hand sanitizers with them. So I think that's going to be the new thing to do this year. Before school.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for giving us your time, Dr. Hedari, everyone. And you guys, to make an appointment with a pediatrician, you can go to sbhny.org. And for more safety tips, you can always go to cdc.gov. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear how one organization is giving back to the community as we quickly approach a new school year. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. So the New York State of Mind, that's actually an organization dedicated to serving low-income communities in hopes of impacting people's lives for positive change. And since 2010, the organization has partnered up with other organizations such as Bowery Mission, Baby Buggy, City Meals on Wheels, Housing Works, and St. Joseph's Soup Kitchen to serve the less fortunate. This month, they will be holding an upcoming school supply distribution event as we gear up to get back to school. And joining us to tell us more, we welcome NYSoM Executive Director and Co-Founder, Paul Dawkins. Hello and welcome.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us and welcome. I would love to just give everyone a little insight as to who you are and what inspired you to to be the founder of this organization. I know your origins are that you work at CBS and you're financial, right? You do finances and accounting. And so it's very fascinating that you have chosen to pass it forward and pay it back to your community, right?
Yes. Well, personally for me, because I come from a low income background, so once I was able to progress to a certain point in my professional career, I decided to be a part of an initiative to give back to the community, because I understand what it's like for people who are living in those circumstances and the lack of resources that people have, because that's how it was for me growing up. So just being inspired by seeing what different members of the community did and what their efforts brought, an effort of a single person or a couple of people brought to their community inspired me and a couple of my partners to come together and create this organization that we've been doing community projects through since 2010.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It warms my heart, especially during this particular time, right? We need a lot of hope and we need to hold each other. And so thank you for sharing that. And the reason I wanted to introduce you as such is because while it's wonderful that we're going to discuss this event that you put together annually to supply, for those who need these additional resources to provide for their children, it's also, I think, important that everyone understand that we do operate as a community and what kind of work goes into being able to offer and provide such. So just share a little bit about, because I know you have an event that's coming up uptown, you have another one that's going to be happening in Brooklyn, and obviously you're making it your business to make sure that you're providing as much as you possibly can before these children start school.
Okay. Thank you. So just a little bit of background on NYSoM. So as you mentioned in the introduction, since we've been in existence since 2010, we started out as a volunteer group, volunteering for the various organizations that you mentioned, Baby Buggy, Bowery Mission, Meals on Wheels. But since 2013, we've actually been producing one of our own community events, which are engagement activities that we put together ourselves to give back directly to the community, which directly impacts our mission. So one of the events that we've been doing since 2013 annually is our annual Back to School event, where at the very core, we get people to come to a venue and we distribute school supplies to the families who need it the most. So this year, obviously with the pandemic, we have to do things a lot differently than we have in the past. Usually we do a back to school event in Manhattan and in Brooklyn. So, and we usually put activities around the event. It's usually a 3 to 4 hour event where people can come up. So come out, it's not simply just coming to get school supplies. We have a number of activities for people to participate in throughout the day. So they come for the school supplies, stay for the fun. That's usually how we do it with all of our community events. Obviously, this year it's a lot different because of the pandemic. NYSoM was actually had to take a forced hiatus for the first half of the year through June 2020. We weren't doing anything because we couldn't do things the way we normally did them. But we finally got back up and running in July, and everything for the rest of 2020 for NYSoM will be distribution events. So that event will be a grab and go, RSVP beforehand so that we know that you're coming, and we make sure that you have a set of school supplies. The RSVP is important because we want to make our past events have been first come, first serve, and we usually have enough school supplies to service the, the amount of people who just walk up to the event. But
Right.
we want to make sure, like, especially if you're coming out during this pandemic, during this time, that if you come to the event, you definitely get your school supplies. Plus, we don't want to have. Usually, this event has about 300 to 500 people there, or probably more. We don't want to have that many people in one space for everybody's safety. So please RSVP for the event, and we will have. Your RSVP will guarantee that if you come between the hours of 2 and 4, you will definitely get your school. You definitely get your school supplies.
So but the RSVP is definitely mandatory. People cannot just show up. And what are the school supplies that are being offered, and how are you able to provide them, and how many of them are you providing before we go?
Well, so we're able to provide them through our annual back to school drive, which will be ongoing through the end of September. If anybody watching would like to contribute, you can email us at info@nysomgroup.org, because as I said, we're doing 2 distribution events, the one in Manhattan this Saturday and the one in Brooklyn at the end of September. So yeah, we do our annual back to school drive. We've been doing this since June. We've been able to gather a number of supplies. Don't want to give the exact number, because we don't have the number. It will be somewhat less than, as I mentioned before, it's usually instead of 300 to 500, but we don't want 300 to 500 people to show up, because that's a health hazard. So it is somewhat less, but we will, if you RSVP and we get back to you and let you know that we have you signed up, you're definitely going to get a set of school supplies.
Okay, and so we're talking like school bags, pencils, sharpeners, all those items, the basics, right?
The basics, correct.
All right. Well, bueno, I just want to acknowledge you, Paul, because it just warms my heart. I love seeing us work together and figure it out for each other. And the fact that you've been able to forge through despite the circumstances and find a way to provide for our children, it's admirable. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time to come and share it with our viewers as well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And hopefully, our mission is to serve the community and give back to those who need it. So hopefully everybody who comes out will, it'll take a little bit of the burden of this entire year off of them by getting, a set of school supplies that will help their children through the next school year.
Thank you. And you guys, once again, for NYSoM Back to School's annual school supply event, the distribution event that is, it's going to be happening on Saturday, August 29th from 2 to 4 p.m. at El Barrio Garden. And to participate in the event, remember, you have to RSVP, and that's at Eventbrite, NYSoM Back to School, Uptown 2020. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a new book celebrating the brilliance of young Black boys. Don't go anywhere.
It's a nice way to spend your day and help out, and at the same time to help out your community.
Founder of the organization Friends of Pelham Parkway, Roxanne Delgado, held the It's My Park cleanup in collaboration with Assemblymember Nathalia Fernandez.
Well, we're doing our weekly Monday cleanup. We've been doing weekly since mid-July.
Asking residents to join their efforts for less than 10 minutes, the organization and community volunteers clean the Rose Garden of Pelham Parkway. The park has become a growing spot for litter as outdoor parties and recreational activities are on the rise.
This park is very active on the weekends, and every Monday we do see that there's a little bit of the weekend left on it. So Roxanne, our president, has done a great job of bringing neighbors together and letting them know that, we can help clean the park too.
The Friends of Pelham Parkway are one of many organizations leading park cleanups after budget cuts towards the New York City Parks Department.
The city has to take responsibility for its parks. Volunteers should be a bonus, but we should not be burdened with caring for our own parks.
After announcing her run for borough president, Fernandez reveals the importance of elected leaders' involvement towards community efforts and plans to continue this effort throughout her political career.
So I did announce borough president, and this activity is to set a little example. And that's something that I think as an elected leader, as a community leader, you lead by example. You show what is possible by what you can do.
The Friends of Pelham Parkway hopes to return to a monthly cleanup starting mid-September. The organization welcomes all volunteers, but says the best way to help is to refrain from littering. Reporting for BronxNet, Kibin Aline.
Welcome back to Open. Our next guest is an award-winning filmmaker and photographer that, she decided to write a children's book surrounding Black boys, their identity, history, and purpose in the world. I Am a Phenomenal Black Boy. It's the title of her book that serves as a mirror for young Black boys by centering them as heroes of their own stories while also defying societal stereotypes. Joining us to tell us more, we welcome author Francesca Andre. Oh my gosh, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to identify you as an author.
It is quite exciting, yes.
The last time we had you on, we were discussing your film Charcoal, and yes. I identify you as a photographer, videographer, cinematographer, and a filmmaker, and so this is very exciting, new chapter.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about that leap and why you've decided to write a children's book.
So I had a very tough pregnancy, and then something devastating happened, which I'm not gonna go deeper into that. So when my son was born, just the journey into motherhood was challenging as well as rewarding. So I'm like, I'm a mother now, I'm embracing this new world, this new journey, and then a pandemic. Fear kicks in, I feel paralyzed, and then we start having all this protest and all these different things, like a shift was happening in the world. And my first reaction to it, my first response to it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm raising a boy. I can't believe I'm raising a Black boy in America or in this world, period. What am I going to do?
In this time, during this particular time.
But it's also knowing that this has been happening for so many years. I'm like, are we gonna have like real change, right? Where if by the time he's like 6 years old, where am I gonna, well, not even 6, even younger than that, can I trust the people if I change to enroll him in a daycare, right? If those people don't share the same values and views that I share, right? Just based on what society has reflected back at me, right? So, and then I had to kind of like shift gear. I have to shift my mind and say, hey, I cannot let fear paralyze me. I need to take control of the narrative. They are saying that Black people are this way, Black men are this way, Black children are that way, Black women are that way, this and that. I'm like, it doesn't have to be my narrative. I say, I need to start right now. Right now, I can't even speak. So in the morning, I'll wake up, I will wash his eyes, I will wash his hands, and we will do
How old is he? How old is he?
He's 13 months old. So I was doing that when he was like 7 months, 6, 7 months. I started doing that. having conversations with him, have him look in the mirror, saying things to him, the positive affirmation. So first I wrote a book called I Am Not Afraid to Shine. And the book has like very specific names, personal names from my family and my husband's family. And that's his own book. That book is not the only copy. My son has that copy. And then I said, I would like to do something that mothers or, fathers or parents or, relative can read to young boys. That's when the idea of I'm a phenomenal Black boy. I have lots of other ideas, and I don't limit myself in terms of when they come to me. I embrace them and what form they come to me, and when is the time to release them. So this project was definitely that. So this is it. I'm a phenomenal Black boy because I want my son to know that he's a phenomenal Black boy.
Absolutely. It all begins with the declaration in language in which you're communicating. So what age range is this book for?
So I would say this is a book that from birth until 8 or 10, right? I made a joke to a friend of mine, an adult friend of mine. I said to him, listen, if your inner boy, your inner child needs healing, get that book as well. But this is, I would say, up to 10 years old, yeah.
And so it's interesting that you just mentioned that somebody who's an adult needing to, I guess, reconnect to their inner child and reviewing this book. Like, what was your intention within the storyline? Give us a little idea of what that journey is like within the book.
I wanted something so I didn't want to, the whole superhero or the whole warrior, even though the book cover, you see there's a prince and he has a crown and he's holding the world, he has the world in his hand. I didn't want it to be the kind of the typical prince look, right? At the same time, I said to myself, I wanted it to be a perfect stew. So we do have Black boy. Everything I do phenomenally, right? And we have illustration that shows.
Francesca, give me 1 second. Could you just go back to where you said a perfect stew? You froze for a moment, and I want to hear what that was that you said after you said a perfect stew.
Yeah, so I wanted to have a perfect stew. I wanted to have a perfect stew. So a little bit of positive affirmation, history, education, and for them to also know about the ancestry, right? At the same time, in terms of the illustration, the concept, I didn't want Black boys to, I wanted inclusion. So in one of the illustration, you see there are all types of Black boys in terms of activities that they are doing, in terms of their skin tone, skin complexion, even hairstyle. I wanted, and we also have a boy, I don't know if I sent you that illustration, but I have the book. Let me look for it.
So you do different skin tones, right? You're doing different colors. It's just people of color. There's different melanin.
But you see one in a wheelchair.
I see.
And they're doing different activities, and you see the scientists. So it was important for me to have something like that. Like boys doing normal things, Black children remaining children, and the whole idea of them being heroes of their own stories. Because I know kids love stories about heroes. So I have that, and also have like an illustration where the boy is meditating next to him helping an older Black woman. So it was important to show that Black boys are phenomenal when they show empathy. Black boys are phenomenal when they read books and they love school. Black boys are phenomenal when they walk with their head high. Black boys are phenomenal when they help people. So Black boys are phenomenal when they know their history, right? Black boys are phenomenal when they know how to tell their own stories, right? And claim and embrace their own stories. So that's kind of like what I really wanted for my son. And I put exactly that in the book.
That's wonderful. Or should I say, that's phenomenal.
That's phenomenal.
I love it. No, I love the purposefulness within your language. And I know, I know the intention, and this is a really challenging time that we're going through. And the way we embrace whatever is presenting itself is how we're going to come out. And absolutely. So it's absolutely important to feed your mind this kind of language.
I am definitely in the business of planting seeds, and that's what I'm going to do. And then there is I don't want to say surprise. I do have one coming for Black girls.
Nice. Nice.
So,
We'll have to have you back on for that one. Thank you for being with us, Francesca Andre.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, Rhina. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And have a wonderful day. And please remain phenomenal.
I love it. Phenomenal. Phenomenal
Yeah.
mama, Francesca Andre.
Yeah.
Once again, you guys, I Am a Phenomenal Black Boy. The book is available on Amazon. And for more on Francesca, you can visit francescaandrephotography.com. Don't go anywhere. Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
We begin our look at sports out at the Brickyard, an eerily empty Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the greatest spectacle in racing Sunday. No Andretti in victory lane, no Triple Crown for Alonso, no second victory for Rossi, but we did see some history. Takuma Sato snatched a second Indianapolis 500 victory and perhaps an unsatisfying finish, although a memorable one. Sato held off Scott Dixon and won under caution after a crash with 5 laps remaining in front of empty grandstands for the first time in 104 runnings because of the coronavirus pandemic. We caught up with Sato to ask him about the unique 500.
Every time I tell people about IMS, I describe how massive the place is. Does it seem even bigger without having the fans as a race driver when you're turning laps?
We just simply just experienced at the moment, without the fans at IMS, which clearly sad, it's not a happy place, of course not, but at least racing, I don't think in any angle, any matter, with or without fan, to be honest, in terms of competition level. Even we don't have a fan here physically, we know their heart is here. So I think every driver did 100% for the commitment, and this was a result of a great race, I believe.
The 5-time IndyCar champion Dixon dominated the race and was disappointed, of course, but gave credit to Sato's drive in the final laps.
Definitely hard to swallow for the team. Massive thank you to the 9-car crew. They did a tremendous job on pit road today, and strategy, and everybody did, everything we could, and got to say congrats to Sato too. He drove a hell of a race, and they were victorious, and he's drinking the milk, and that's what counts.
The winning team's car owners include a former 500 winner himself and a longtime late-night TV host too. Here's Bobby Rahal, whose son Graham finished third behind Sato and Dixon on the podium, and an ecstatic David Letterman.
We made the commitment to strengthen our engineering group and make the investments in R&D, and I think this month here in August at Indy, I think it showed it with qualifying, and then of course today in the race, having 2 cars in the top 3.
Letterman is from Indiana, went to Ball State, and was actually a weatherman who at one point covered the Indy 500 before becoming a household name on your TVs late night.
Somebody said to me this morning, at the end of the Indianapolis 500, Takuma Sato and Scott Dixon and Graham Rahal would be racing for the lead. I would say, well, that's a dream. That's a dream come true. And I woke up and it turned out that we won the Indianapolis 500. For us, it's like we've been struck by lightning.
Sato is certainly a household name in racing these days. The Japanese driver now has 2 Indy 500s to his credit since becoming the first Asian driver to win the coveted race in 2017. The race to the finish of the baseball season is on. Less than 40 games to go. The Bronx Bombers have cooled a bit. They are playing slightly above 500 baseball over their last 10 games. The New York Mets' COVID-19 cases disrupted their schedule to the tune of 3 doubleheaders in 5 days. Now that's a lost Subway Series in many ways.
The expectations around here for this group and these guys, and they're terrific at it, doesn't change no matter what circumstances we're put in, or whatever adversity kind of comes our way or injuries come our way. We expect to go out and perform well. That's the expectation in that room, and it'll continue to be even as we navigate through a tough stretch.
The Pinstripers will be busy during these last few days before the August 31st trade deadline at 4 p.m. The club has a pitching problem with only ace Garrett Cole performing as expected. The Yanks are missing key pitchers Luis Severino, who had Tommy John surgery, and last year's best pitcher Domingo Germán, who is serving out the remainder of his suspension. James Paxton recently went on the IL with a forearm flexor problem and won't return to the rotation until a week or two before the end of the regular season. Across town, the Mets are under 500 and dealing with more than just regular injuries, as we mentioned with the news of the COVID cases in their organization. We caught up with the GM and manager in our weekly Mets report.
What we're all learning is that this virus continues to have a lot more questions for us than answers. But we do feel comfortable that the spread has not come from player to player or coach to coach. At this point, our best guess is that it came from some outside spot, but that is simply that. It's a guess, and at this point we just don't know, and we may never know.
We've got our first no-no of the 2020 baseball season. For the 19th time in franchise history, a Chicago White Sox pitcher has thrown a no-hitter. This time around, it was the staff ace Lucas Giolito taking down the Pittsburgh Pirates in a 4-0 victory. It is his first career no-hitter. Giolito walked one, preventing him from the much more elusive perfect game. He wasn't just dominant in preventing hits, he was missing bats all night long. He ended up with 13 strikeouts while getting 6 ground ball outs and 5 fly ball outs. He got 30, that's right, 30 swing and miss strikes. Congrats to him on a terrific no-hitter. On the gridiron, the Jets are looking good in camp, having fun and building chemistry on and off the field.
I think the sky's the limit, It starts with the guys up front. I think over the course of camp, each and every day, they've been getting better and grinding and, staying in their playbooks and being sharp with their assignments. So it really starts with those guys up front, obviously getting the runs called and getting us in the right run calls, and it's a whole total team thing. So obviously, as runners, we got to do our job and run hard. Receivers got to get on the edge and block. So as a run group, it's just going to be a total team effort.
24-year-old tight end Chris Herndon is embracing the moment. He has a fresh start and says he has come back to Florham Park a changed man following injuries and violating the league's policy on substance abuse.
I kind of just want to get back out there, get back to having fun, and being that reliable teammate, reliable source on the field for, the team, and showing that I can be, consistent with that, and just, continue to do what I do, and just most importantly, don't take any steps back. Continue to find a way to get, even 1% better every day.
After several attempts to dwindle down the capacity, the decision has finally been made to hold this year's Kentucky Derby without fans. Churchill Downs made the announcement to reverse course, citing the increasing COVID-19 cases in the area. It will be the second Triple Crown race this year without spectators, following the Belmont Stakes in June. The Kentucky Derby will be run on Saturday, September 5th. August 24th was Kobe Bryant Day. The Lakers paid tribute to their fallen star with a playoff win inside the NBA bubble. Bryant's legacy was celebrated and pays homage to the two numbers, 8 and 24, that Bryant wore throughout his NBA career. Both of the jersey numbers have been retired by the Lakers. In response to the Wisconsin police shooting of 29-year-old black man Jacob Blake, players from the NBA, WNBA, and MLB boycotted games this week, calling for an end to systemic racism. Queens Hoops legend turned broadcaster Kenny Smith walked off the live set at TNT and summed it up best. He says, "As a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and not be here tonight." Those are the headlines. We hit the C-list for a tip of the cap to the Isles this postseason. Who says winning doesn't bring people out even if they can't come out? The New York Islanders playoff run is helping boost season ticket sales for their new arena, scheduled to open next year. The Isles beat the Florida Panthers in the qualifying round, then advanced past the Washington Capitals in the first round, then topped the Philadelphia Flyers in the first game of the Eastern Conference semifinals. New York reports 80% of its season tickets for the 2021-2022 season, the inaugural season at UBS Arena at Belmont Park, has already been sold. The team says it has sold nearly 10,000 full season tickets for UBS Arena's first season. Winning puts fans in the seats. Really nice showing by the Islanders so far this postseason. Let's hope they keep it rolling, and let's hope we get to see all those fans at the new arena next year. Keep social distancing and washing your hands so we can make a Stanley Cup run with fans a reality. That's your look at sports. I'm Bobby C.
Welcome back. Our last guest is a talented opera singer from the Bronx who studied at the prestigious LaGuardia High School, and she's currently an ensemble member of Bronx Banda, created by Arturo O'Farrell, and she's also dedicated herself to the evolution of classical music by collaborating, and I'm going to do it again. Oh my goodness, what is going on today? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome back. Our last guest is a talented opera singer from the Bronx who's studied at the prestigious LaGuardia High School, and she's currently an ensemble member of Bronx Banda, which was created by Arturo O'Farrell, and she's also has dedicated herself to the evolution of classical music by collaborating with other genres. This Puerto Rican American woman has made quite a name for herself, and joining us is the talented Kayla Faccilongo. Hello, Kayla.
Hello, Rhina. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Bueno, well deserved.
Thank you. How are you doing?
We're doing what we can, considering the circumstances. However, I do want to open up with your involvement with the Bronx Banda. That's a nice gig you got there, and I know you just recently did a performance or a presentation with Casita Maria, right?
We did. We did a fully broadcasted performance at Casita Maria earlier this month, and it was just incredible. The way that everything was put together, and we performed live, and it was broadcast on various channels on BronxNet and online as well. But of course, no audience or anything like that, and we were very carefully spaced apart. But it was just such an incredible experience to have that, energy of, live music surrounding us.
Yeah, no, I also recall that there was a special presentation that was done for the South Bronx Culture Trail with puppetry, right? Was that part of the concert as well?
Yes, we didn't do that this time around, but yeah, it's just an incredible kind of collaborative, work that we put together with, different forms of art and, different genres of music, all, kind of putting everything together to tell these beautiful stories.
Well, that seems to be your specialty, right? So why opera? That's a fascinating choice, right? Obviously, you have to be gifted in a certain area, but I also understand that you like to kind of fuse it. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Opera really, like, I didn't, set out to become an opera singer when I was a lot younger. I didn't really even know what opera was and hadn't listened much to it until high school, until I went to LaGuardia High School, where I was classically trained. And the music really just spoke to me and really just, had my heart in a very special way. But at the same time, I grew up singing a lot of rock music. My grandfather sings as well, and we grew up singing the Beatles and Elvis and all these other things. So I really, always took that love of other music with me as well. So as I've gotten older, what's been really, interesting for me is to kind of, fuse the different types of music that I love to sing. And I adore, singing opera. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of really interesting projects, especially coming up this year. But I love singing jazz music and rock music, and, every chance I get to blend all the different ones is just so exciting for me.
So, Facilongo is not a Puerto Rican name.
I know, it's an Italian name. My dad's Italian.
Italian?
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's lovely. Nice combination. Do you speak Italian?
Some, not. I'm a little rusty. I haven't had too much chance to practice as of late.
You sing in Italian?
I know, I do sing in Italian all the time. I love it.
Right, most of the opera songs are in Italian, right?
Yeah, and there's also French, German opera songs, a little Spanish, which I'm getting more into later this year, or next year rather, which I'm super excited about.
And why is that? Why is it that most opera songs are either Italian or French?
Sure. I mean, it's really, kind of where the art form originated, and as well as just the way that the language lends itself to the voice and singing. It's, a very kind of open vowel language, very kind of pleasing to listen to and for music to be set to. So, yeah.
It's definitely an art form that requires you to bring everything within your soul, right? Absolutely. And so I understand you're going to be doing somewhat of a performance art piece for us. Do you want to talk a little bit about, once again, we already discussed that you like to fuse things and you like to blend the genres. So what do we have in store for today?
Absolutely. I'll be singing today Vagaluna che in Argenti, which is an Italian art song by Vincenzo Bellini. And just the lyrics, very, very beautiful in Italian, speaking about the beauty of the moon and how it can kind of carry messages between lovers and the longing that comes along with that. So I'm super excited to sing it.
Oh my gosh, I'm super excited to present it. And you guys don't go anywhere because we're gonna get a little romantic. Wow. Also, exercising a certain level of appreciation for the elements within our existence, right? Because you're going to be singing about the love of the moon. Bueno, thank you for being with us, Kayla Faccilongo. And you guys don't go anywhere. Stick around because when we return, Kayla's going to perform a special Italian performance art piece. So don't go anywhere. welcome back. It's now time for this week's Open Artist Spotlight. Here now to perform Vagaluna che in Argenti by Vincenzo Bellini, please welcome Kayla Faccilongo. Feeling really romantic, you know, go visit the moon at some point this weekend. All right, you guys, for more on Kayla Faccilongo and her music, be sure to visit her website, KaylaFaccilongo.com. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through and to our viewers for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recablecast tonight from 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide peace, prosperity, and love. Be sure to be considerate and mindful of your neighbors. Wear your mask.